All right, so one of the questions asked on the channel here, if you look down in the comments of one of the videos on real estate development, was how do you go about developing property for a subdivision? What's the process of getting that approved and clearing the land? And can you get enough money out of the timber to make any sense? So there are a lot of ways to play land. Mobile home parks are very difficult. A lot of municipalities do not allow mobile home parks to be developed anymore. That's why they are such a valuable asset. It's a very high barrier to entry. So generally, they do not allow mobile home park developments right now. Now you can do manufactured housing, but mobile home parks are very difficult to get through the planning process. A lot of people just don't like them. They don't understand them. And there's certain states and certain counties and cities that will not allow it. And there might be some that do out there, but I'm not aware of any where it's real easy to get that done these days. So number one, you got to check the zoning and find out whether or not you can even get that approved for development. Then let's just talk about developing land, period. So if you have land that has timber, what you want to do is you want to find somebody who does that. Somebody, timber companies that go and will clear your land for you and give you, X amount an acre for your timber. And generally it's got to be worth their while. Sometimes on building lots, if it's really big, mature timber, you might be able to get them to clear the big trees out for you. Without charging you, but they're not going to pay you for it. If you have a lot of acreage, sometimes you can make some money on having it timbered, but you got to be careful. You got to make sure you find the right guys because they will tear your land up if you're not careful. And it can generate some money, but it's not significant money unless you have big parcels of land and a lot of trees. So find timber contractors in your area, people that do the timbering as a business. And generally, if you're in an area where there's lots of mature trees, you'll find companies that's what they do. And finally, what are the other plays on land? So you can buy land. Some people do play land as timber land, but that's, lots and lots of acres. Some people buy land and rent it out for agricultural purposes. But again, that's, you need a lot of land for that to make sense, where you can lease it out to a farmer that grows something on the land, either hay or some sort of crop, depending on your region where you're at. The Midwest is big on land. Investing for leasing to big farming outfits. And then you can buy land to wholesale and do land flipping. And there's a whole strategy behind that. Or you can buy land to develop, and you want to find out what the by right uses are for that. And you got to be careful where you do it, because again, you can't go in the middle of farmland country in Iowa and expect to be able to develop a subdivision and people will come live there. So you want to make sure that you go where the demand is or in the path of progress. You don't want to be 30, 45 minutes to an hour outside of an area that's growing and think that you can develop a cornfield or timberland or a forest and people are going to come. There's got to be a reason, to bring people out there. So if you're developing, a resort and you've got a river or a lake, or you're near the coast somewhere and you're going to build a golf course and hotels and things like that, then you might be able to create a destination that people will come to. But if you're just looking at carving up land and selling lots, you can do it, but you're going to have to sell them cheap. It's going to have to be a reason for people to buy that land and sit on it. And that's where the wholesaling land business comes into play. That's something that generally works in rural or more rural areas for random pieces of land, even landlocked pieces of land. If they're cheap enough, people will buy it just so they can own some land and have that as an investment to pass along. So there are some ways that you can do that. And that's another video in terms of wholesaling land. But that's the process for developing land and finding out whether or not your timber has any kind of value. Call a timber company, have them come out, look at the land. They'll give you an estimate on what it's worth. And you want to get a couple, 2, 3 bids and make sure you're dealing with a good, legitimate outfit.